Episode 16 with Vince Golangco of When in Manila.
You're listening to Kendrick Loves to Brand, the branding podcast featuring stories and lessons from entrepreneurs and brand builders so you can get inspiration, insights, strategies, and tactics as you create your own game-changing brand.
Welcome to the show, Vince. Thank you for agreeing to come to the show. Before anything else, I'd like to turn the floor over to you and sort of, how do you introduce yourself to people you're meeting for the first time?
I just say I'm Vince. I'm Vince, but I guess on a more business side, my main thing is I am the CEO of wheninmanila.com. When in Manila, we are the biggest, or one of the, if not the biggest, blog or online magazine here in Manila and the Philippines. The site alone gets about 7 million views per month, including social media, so Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and everything else. We estimate it at around 10 million impressions per day.
Per day, wow. When did you start When in Manila? And how did the whole idea for the website come about?
It's the short version of the story is that I realized as I was lost in life, I realized that I was drawn to writing. I loved writing. And 2008-ish, I graduated from San Diego State University. I'm part Filipino. Everything was miserable in the US. The depression just started.
Yeah.
Economy crashed, no jobs available. So it was just sad there.
Perfect time to graduate.
I know, right? Yes, perfect timing. But the universe works things out for the people who work hard, I think. So I guess the universe was telling me I needed to travel. So at the same time, I was going through a quarter-life crisis. I wasn't sure what life was meant to be for me because I didn't go straight to college. Okay, I guess I'm not doing the short version. It's the medium version. I was in the U.S. Navy because I dropped out of high school. I didn't know what to do because I did appreciate education when I was younger. I was a rebel. Dropped out of high school. I won't tell the Navy story for now, but pretty much I joined the military. They pay for college when you get out, so I did 4 years of the Navy, and then they fell in love with San Diego, decided to stay in San Diego, went to San Diego State. They paid for my schooling, and in the U.S., when you go to school, when you put yourself through college, usually you end up in debt, in crazy debt when you graduate, tens of thousands of dollars in debt. I was very proud that I was $0 in debt because the military paid for my college, and then I still had a part-time job. So pretty much I was able to survive and technically thrive with no debt. But then the economy crashed, and I was like, you know what? Screw this. I'll travel the world and soul search, and I'll just put it on my credit card. So I went in debt after that. So I was going to base myself in the Philippines because I'm part Filipino. When I was younger, I lived here for a little bit. I was born in Texas, but lived here when I was younger. So I had friends here, I had family here. So I was going to base myself here for 6 months and just travel around the area. So Asia, Australia, New Zealand, Hong Kong, Thailand, etc. I was doing a lot of traveling and then bouncing back and forth to the Philippines. I fell in love with writing already, and unknowingly, unbeknownst to me, I mean, I didn't know back then that blogging was just growing in the Philippines. It was already huge in the US. And it was just so normal. In fact, I had like 5, 6, 7 blogs, different blogs. It was just blogs on different things. Every time I think of something new, I'll make a blog. So when I was here, it was actually some friends of mine. They're like, hey, why don't you make a blog in the Philippines? So that's where it came about. Sort of like When in Manila, from the saying when in Rome, do as the Romans do. So when in Manila, do as the Manilanians, the Filipinos do. So I did that. And also something I didn't know back then was that there was no Yelp here. In the States, Yelp is huge, so every time someone wants to go to a restaurant, they search for Yelp reviews. Yep. For those not familiar with Yelp, in fact, because the locals, there's still a lot who don't know Yelp. Right. It's pretty much online Yellow pages where people can rate the places they go to. So every time you search on Google in the States, the Yelp reviews would come out right away. Like, let's say you're looking for a restaurant review to see if you want to make a reservation at a restaurant or not. Here, Yelp wasn't strong back then, so there weren't a lot of reviews. So anything I wrote, Google ranked really high. And then with that, I found the middle ground of decent writing plus great SEO. So because I think what I'm finding from bloggers, especially back then, is they're good at one of the two. They're either really good at writing, like award-winning writing, but they don't know SEO. So they didn't study SEO. They're maybe an older generation writer. So even though they have amazing award-winning writing, no one can find what they wrote about. Or the vice versa, where they're really good at SEO, they're younger, they're tech savvy, they studied the hacks of SEO, but then their writing is crap. So everyone finds their article, but it's not really what they're looking for and doesn't have the info they need. So they never come back. I sort of found the middle ground. So that's the medium version story of how In Manila came about.
When you were doing that, did you already have in mind that you were going to turn it into a business?
No, absolutely not. It was just a passion. I just loved writing. So I loved writing, and this I didn't even know that it was my strength, that it was my thing. But looking back, when I was younger, I used to write letters to my crush, write letters to my friends. I was the only one writing letters. So it was I used to write poems when I was a lost teenager. So I didn't know that writing was my thing. I thought I just did it for the hell of it. But it turned out, looking back, it's like, oh, I guess I'm a writer. I did it without anyone asking me to. I did it for fun. And then, so with that, I didn't know that when Manila would become, I didn't know blogs could be monetized, especially back then. I didn't really, other than, the famous blogs, which you don't even really think about. Like, let's say there's a famous blog. You don't really think, like, is this making money? Yeah. Especially as a younger, as a teenager, in my young 20s, you don't really think, is this making money? You don't really think business-wise like that.
Blogs are seen more like a form of self-expression.
Exactly.
Basically.
They were, honestly, when blogs started, they were just a diary.
Yeah.
But it turns out now, again, looking back, it turns out blogs were the first version of influencers. Even before Facebook, Instagram blew up, blogs were the influencers of the time. So the blogs that survived from then till now sort of found a way to integrate social media into their blogs, because that's where the influencers are. It's just easier with the social media because every day you're logged into Facebook. Yeah. So it's easy for someone's posts on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter to show up on your feed. As compared to a blog on its own, it's hard for someone to top of mind. It's like, oh, I'll go to When in Manila today. It's not usually. It's usually when it pops up on social media. So people who have found a way to integrate it are usually the blogs that sort of survived and thrived until today.
So how long from when you started to like how many months or years did it take for it to turn into, or for you to see it as a viable opportunity to make it into a business?
I don't have the exact. I would assume it was at least a year, if not so. But I don't have that because in the beginning, even we did really well from the start, as I said, because of our Google ranked us really high, so everyone was searching for stuff, and I was writing a lot. I was writing 10, 20 articles a day. It really wasn't a thing to me. And then in the beginning, as a new blogger and even influencers today, you're already happy with X deals. X deals meaning someone will give you something for free, whether it's a hotel stay, a restaurant meal for you and your friend, or free clothes, free whatever. I was already happy with that. And then it was actually it was actually New Year's. I forgot what year. 2010 or 11 maybe. And because every brand has a New Year's party, has a New Year's whatever activation, whatever. So I was, you'll get a dozen invites. I got a dozen invites, and I was already slowly turning them down. Like, oh, sorry, I can't go to your party because I'm going somewhere. And then there's one big brand who said, no, Vince, you're coming to our party. You will hang out with this A-list celebrity, with Solen, and we will pay you. And that was the first time I was like, I guess I'm going to your party. So that's where slowly I was like, oh shoot, I guess people are paying for this. And then what I realized is, as the blog grew, I got more and more invites. I couldn't go to everything. So then I was able to be more selective with, hey, okay, you're a big brand. Can you sponsor some for me to attend your event? While still being, but even then, I was still very picky on what brands I would feature. I didn't want to sacrifice our authenticity. Yeah. And then I still tell them beforehand, even until now we still do. We tell them that we're still going to write it the way we want to write it. So if we don't like it, we have the right to still turn this down. And we still do turn down some advertising and whatnot.
What's the most exciting brand that you've worked with?
I can't name one. There's so many. There's so many brands that, and sometimes it's not always brands. Sometimes it's even just concerts. Like sometimes your favorite band would come in, and I'd be like, oh my god, I would pay for front row tickets for this. But they're giving me tickets. They're giving me free tickets. Plus, I get to meet the band and have dinner with them. So in fact, U2 was just here yesterday, and my staff were all fighting for it. And I was like, okay, fine, you guys go. You guys are really want to see U2. So it's all and then each activation has a gimmick, so it's all unique, it's all fun. Sometimes they'll fly you overseas, sometimes you'll get to meet amazing people, try the most amazing dishes. So it's not always about brands, and of course a lot of my favorite features and experiences are also non-branded, where it's just we just traveled to La Union, we traveled to Hong Kong, we traveled to wherever, and we discovered something crazy, like the best street food or the best like hole in the wall drinking spot or something. So it's not always the brand, but yeah, it's hard to pick one off the top.
Okay. Coming from when you started, obviously you were a one-man team back then.
Mm-hmm.
How big is When in Manila right now?
We're still relatively. I still consider us. I don't know if I should, but I still consider us a startup. Staff-wise, meaning staff who full-time they're working for When in Manila, we have about 15. So we're still a relatively small team. But we do have over 1,000 contributors and interns from all over the Philippines and the world. But these contributors and interns, they have zero commitment. Unless they volunteer for something. So we just have a group where it's like, hey, we have 2 tickets to this concert, or you can bring 3 friends, so 4 of you are invited to this restaurant. You just need to take photos, so one of the people you bring needs to be a photographer, and then you need to write an article after that, and there you go. So we have a pool of contributors that we screen before we have them join, and then that's the only when they commit to a volunteer feature, that's the only time that they have a commitment. But some of them love it and they do it weekly, and some of them even tell me that that's their weekly bonding with friends. They invite friends or family for their When in Manila feature. Some of them do it once a month, some do it once in a blue moon, once a year or whatever, where it's just when there's something they want, they try to volunteer, and if we pick them. So we've sort of made like a small blogging community, I guess.
Nice. So how big is When in Manila right now in terms of like I don't know if you're comfortable sharing it, but like let's say in terms of the fees you're charging now compared to like when you started, like you were starting with X deals, and so now for a brand to work with When in Manila, like how does that usually go?
So we try to be flexible. For startups and small brands, we do have some special packages where we work with them, and especially if it's something we really want to feature, because we still value authenticity, where if this is a really, really great, if it's an Instagram store but they're selling the most amazing trinket, I would imagine 90 to 99% of our features are still free. But then for businesses who specifically, especially if they want to somewhat control the narrative, where they have their inputs, where they want to see what we're going to post, where they help make suggestions and whatnot, then we work. That's work, and we work with them. For small businesses, we can work with their budget. For big businesses, we charge up to and over 6 digits pesos to work with the brands. So it just depends what's needed, because each campaign is different. Like some campaigns focus more strongly on social media. Some campaigns, even within social media, they want specifically Instagram. Some want multiple articles on our website. So each brings its value. Like some things, like on social media, it helps build the hype at the moment faster. Yeah. But then a post on our website is there permanently. So 5 years from now, let's say someone's still looking for, let's say we wrote about suits. And in fact, one of our partners tells us, Tinio Suits, I wrote about them like 8-9 years ago, and they tell us until today,
it still shows up.
It still shows up on, if you have the right SEO, the right keywords, people still go there saying they found them through our website. So of course, not every article is going to be perfect like that, because it depends on the keywords, it depends how many people are competing for keywords. There's a lot of different factors, but at least being there online, at least searchable, maybe depends again, not always on top, but at least searchable, and then having a reputable site write about your brand is I think has tremendous value.
So how did you learn about like all these technical stuff? Like, was it something you learned in college or?
Oh no. There's no, back then there were no courses on blogging.
On SEO
Blogging was just
or-
growing then. Yeah, there's no, and I don't think it's smart to put up a college course on. Well, sorry. Yeah, it's not smart to put up a college course just on SEO at the moment because it changes every day. So it's so hard. So it maybe a more generic college class about online marketing maybe, but like SEO, Google just posted a bunch of updates just like a few days ago, and you always have to be on top of what updates, how it affects your algorithm, how you're searched, etc. Facebook keeps posting updates every time, so it changes every day. For me, it was just I learned on the fly, read articles on the spot, which is why it's also hard to write a book about it because by the time your book comes out,
it's obsolete.
Exactly, it's obsolete. As compared to just reading articles at the time. So I just read a lot online, tips from other online marketers and whatnot. Learned on my own as well. But a lot of times online, if you're real, quote unquote, if you're authentic, you should do well because Google has an algorithm to tell whether you're trying to scam the system. For me, I was really just writing my review about a restaurant, and with how advanced the technology is now, they can, for the most part, tell like, okay, this is just an article about this restaurant. We're gonna place it on page 1. So a lot of times, if you're just doing it authentically, and especially for me, it wasn't even for the money then, because back then it was just really for fun. So I wasn't trying to get more views so that I get paid more or anything like that.
So all this growth that When in Manila has experienced has been organic. You haven't taken on any like outside investors.
Oh yeah. No, for When in Manila, fortunately, we haven't had to take on investors or anything like that. So we just get to do what we want and be ourselves, and that's the way I like it. I don't see us taking on investors locally anytime soon. If anything, people keep telling me, "Oh, how are you going to expand? You should make When in Singapore, When in America, When in whatever." And it's like, I can't see myself replicating this on my own, because I lived here and I did everything on my own every day, and I wrote 10, 20 articles a day for a year or so. And especially for a place where I'm not, because I grew up here, so I know the Filipino culture. So other than the US where I also lived, I can't see myself writing as a local, like a When in Manila, When in Singapore, because I'll still be a tourist there for a while. At the same time, I can't see myself spending another year
immersing
into that. At the same time, another thing is that now there are more blogs and websites already all over the world. So there's a local version of When in Manila in Singapore, in Jakarta, in Hong Kong, and wherever, in Japan, etc. There should be already a website like ours there. So it's going to be even harder to rank. But if there are investors who want to say, and we won't, it'll be hard for us to do it alone, because if I don't do it myself and I hire, then we're bleeding money already. And the website's not going to be earning for the longest time. Because there's no views yet. It's gonna take a while to build. So if it even does start earning, it might be a few years from when you start. So you're gonna be straight up bleeding. So if there are investors who are passionate, who love our brand and want to say, hey, I'm gonna invest. I'll give you this much. We'll put up When in Japan. Then sure, they can be the majority shareholder, and I'll help run it. But yeah, I fortunately we haven't had to take on investors locally.
I think that's a testament to the authenticity of, you yourself as the founder of the brand, diba? That it's not that easy to just replicate it, because it's not just looking at it as a website and not just the content itself, but it's you. It's basically your personality, diba? It's very infused into the brand.
In the beginning, yeah, I would say that, because I was very adventurous when I was younger. Bungee jumping, parachuting out of airplanes, cliff diving, game. So I wanted to do it all and write about it. I can't see myself doing that. I mean, I might. I guess if I'm with the right group of people, yeah, sure, we'll bungee jump again. But
what's the wildest thing you've done?
Well, there was this one girl. No, I'm joking. I don't know. We did cliff diving in Boracay. I've jumped out of the plane. So I don't know. We've moving back to the Philippines is the craziest thing, maybe. Because I don't know. I was doing well in the U.S. and then it was kind of like things are so different, and a lot of times, in fact, it's locals. They're trying to OFWs. They're trying to make that international money. So it was kind of a crazy thing for me to come back here.
We talk about all these successes of When in Manila. Has there ever been like a tough time for When in Manila as a company?
I think all companies or any person always has tough times. I think for me, one of the tougher times was when we were younger, when we were just growing. So we were already getting, quote unquote, a lot of views, but I still didn't know how to handle it, where especially the trolls and the negativity online. I didn't know how to ignore it because it was still my baby, and I was very passionate about it. So, one person says you're stupid or this article's stupid, and then I try to reason with them, reasoning turning into an argument, and instead of just ignoring, especially if they were just trolling. Yeah. So I think it was learning that online you need to learn how to ignore. Of course, there are things where it's genuine constructive criticism, even if it's negative, then that we still reply to and we appreciate because they're helping us grow, even though it might be negative, but it's still constructive. But then there's just some trolls who just really.
What's the worst thing that somebody ever said about anything that went in?
Oh, there's it's not. But the worst things aren't even real, I hope you get raped in the ass and get AIDS. Things like that. It's completely pointless. So you just delete, block. But with that, I also learned that you get what you give, which is why we also try, for the most part, to write positive articles. That way we also get more positive feedback. Because I remember back then we wrote an article, 20 Reasons Why Transformers 3 is the worst movie ever. And sorry, but I hate that movie. It's so stupid. It's so bad.
It's just a money grab, basically.
Pretty much, yeah. It's so bad. But after we wrote that, oh my God, the level of fanboys out there and fangirls who started writing us about you're stupid because you don't understand Transformers. You didn't understand the blah blah blah, this and that. You're probably not a fan of Transformers, that's why you didn't like this. Amongst other worse things that were said. So much negativity came back. Even though, and I'd imagine the only person who has the right to get offended would be Michael Bay, maybe, But so many people were pissed at us, so that's when we started simmering down on the more. Although we'll still write another, movie review like that. We don't like it, but at least we try to be more balanced now, rather than just like straight up opinionated. Especially if it's negative, we're a bit more picky.
As an entrepreneur, do you ever experience self-doubt?
All the time, yeah.
In what form and how do you manage or how do you deal with it?
I think there's that there's that complex that I read about that. I was like, oh, I guess I have that. Where you always feel like you're afraid that either you don't deserve your success or that you feel like you're a faker and that people.
Imposter syndrome.
Yes, there you go. Thank you. Yeah, I read about that. I'm like, oh my God, that's exactly what I feel a lot of times. I didn't know there was a term for it. Yes. So with the help of these articles, with the help of friends, with the help of focusing on the positive, it's easier said than done, but it's really just, focusing on the positive. When I feel the self-doubt and the fear and the anxiety, I just try to busy myself with something else. So I just do what I'm comfortable with. I just write, or I just try to brainstorm a new concept that we can do and talk to my editors and keep myself busy. And I just do it. And then what happens after happens. I just figured one thing, I forgot where I read or who told me, but one thing I was taught was that being afraid or anxious about something just doubles the fear. Let's say you're afraid of injections and you need to get your flu shot. now, if I worry that whole week about the flu shot I'm gonna get on Sunday, and I worry from Monday to Saturday about that flu shot, then I just suffered from Monday to Saturday instead of just forgetting about it, because it's still gonna hurt.
Yeah.
You're still gonna get that small prick. That's what she said. But you're still gonna get that. You're still gonna get that injection on Sunday, no matter what, and no matter how much you worry about it. It's still gonna happen on Sunday. So might as well just try to keep yourself busy, not think about it, and when it gets there, it gets there.
Deal with it there.
Deal with it there. For the anxiety, for the self-doubt and all that. But yeah, definitely, because a lot of times I feel like, oh my god, I don't feel like I did study. I mean, I took some classes on journalism. I majored in communication, but it wasn't like blogging. It wasn't about SEO. So I'm always afraid that, oh, maybe what I'm doing is wrong. Maybe what I'm doing is fake. Maybe someone will call me out that, hey, you're pretending to be this, but you're not. So I just try to ignore myself, I guess, when I'm doing that, and keep myself busy.
It's actually helpful, like when you said like you read about imposter syndrome. It also like helped me a lot, like knowing that there's a term for it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not just something that, like, because growing up, you when you feel it, you tend to think like you're the only one experiencing it, and you don't want to share it with somebody, because then they might confirm, you're a fraud or you're imposter, diba, parang ganun. So I think it's definitely more helpful now, diba? Like I remember, I used to have this recurring dream of like you're having a test and you haven't prepared for it. Like, that used to be a constant thing until I read about imposter syndrome. Then I sort of understood. Okay, so this is not like it's just like a thought that you have to like, sort of understand where it's coming from, but then move it aside and then go do your work.
Yeah.
And, I think after that I haven't had the dream actually in a long time now.
That's good. It means maybe you're overcoming it.
Yeah.
But yes,
dealing with it. Yeah.
Sometimes you sort of need to get out of your own head, and that's I hear them say those terms for athletes where they're overthinking, when the analyst can see that the athletes are overthinking. And I think that's where you need to realize sometimes just do your thing, don't overthink it. Because if an athlete was going to think, oh, if I fake this shot now and he doesn't jump on my head fake, then I'm going to be stuck. Rather than just doing it and adapting whatever happens. So yeah, sometimes you have to get out of your own head, stop overthinking. I think that is still sometimes my problem.
Correct. I think a lot of us, sort of. That's something we have to deal with almost on a day-to-day basis. Shifting gears a little bit, did you have any mentors for entrepreneurship?
Yes and no. I think I didn't have a quote-unquote a specific, because I know nowadays people, it's almost like you're courting someone and then you specifically ask them, can you be my mentor?
Yeah.
So, which is great, and people have asked me to do that. But for me, so I didn't have a formal mentor who checked up on me regularly or anything like that. But I feel like it was just being open-minded and learning from everyone, whether or not they're successful or you want to note them as successful. But just learning from everyone you meet, from every situation. I think that the universe became my mentor. There's a saying, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Yeah.
So pretty much anyone can be your teacher if you're willing to learn from them. So, I mean, even if someone is not financially, quote-unquote, successful, there's still something that they might be able to teach you that might affect your life positively in your businesses or in your financials. So I think it's just being open-minded and not discriminating or whatnot.
I love that quote that you just said. I actually used that quote in a cold email to somebody I wanted to meet to learn from about the restaurant industry. How about in terms of like maybe not like a mentor, but somebody that you look up to in any field, basically around the world, that given a chance you would want to meet and have a one-on-one conversation with?
I was a part of the when in Manila, how I designed how we work. We work from home until today. I love the book The 4 Hour Work Week by Timothy Ferriss. So I'd love to meet him. surprisingly, I never had an Apple product other than iPods, but I'm a big fan of Steve Jobs. Funny was because as I was in college, as I was growing up, when I was younger, when the iPhones first came out and whatnot, I couldn't afford them. And I just never, when I finally could, I just never, I was too lazy to switch already. And unfortunately, Steve Jobs passed away as well. So I guess I never bought an iPhone because of that. But I'm a big fan of Steve Jobs, Bill Gates. I'd love to meet them. There's a show on Netflix right now, Inside Bill's Brain. Yeah. I watched the first episode. It's crazy, amazing how much that guy reads. So I think those are some of the people, of the many, that I would love to meet.
Speaking of books, like Bill Gates actually recommends a lot of books. How about you? Like, do you like read a lot of books?
I read a lot.
Book recommendations?
So many. 4-Hour Work Week, Rich Dad Poor Dad, Who Moved My Cheese, Blue Ocean Strategies, The Little Prince. I just finished listening to an audiobook by Brittany Hennessy about, I think it's called Influencer or Influencer Marketing, something like that. It just came out last year about blogging, vlogging. Very, very, very good book. So she's sort of like an ad agency executive, something like that, and she's the one hiring bloggers, hiring influencers she works with. So she gives insights on why she would hire people, how they get started, and then she has some of the top influencers she works with also speak, also have commentary in the book. So I got it on Audible, so it was really, really good listen. I think it's just here in the Philippines, like one traffic jam for 2 hours, that's a whole book already. Yeah. So I highly recommend audiobooks or podcasts. So yeah, that's one of the recent books I've read, but I have so many books that I love. How to Win Friends and Influence People. But yeah, lots of the Tipping Point. Sorry.
How about for podcasts? Like, what podcast do you listen to? Tim Ferriss's show.
Tim Ferriss a bit. Actually, lately I've been listening to audiobooks. For podcasts, I kind of just listen to recordings of news nowadays. I'm a big fan of NPR because I grew up in the States, and I don't know, I was already a bit geeky even before. So me and back then the girl I was dating, we'd listen to NPR News. It's National Public Radio in the U.S., so it's sort of the supposedly unbiased news and podcasts. So they have a lot of podcasts and news bits and whatnot, current events. So I'm usually listening to that or audiobooks. Podcast-wise, I haven't fully gotten into it like others have. I'm slowly doing that now because we're researching how to make our podcast. Nice. But yeah, NPR was one of my favorites. And then I listen to sports podcasts. So that's other than books, sports podcasts are my thing.
Nice. What's your typical day like? Because aside from actually before you answer that, aside from When in Manila, you've also been investing, and you're a partner in several businesses.
Yeah.
So how did that start? And what are these ventures that you're partners in?
So fortunately, because of When in Manila, I get to meet a lot of people, a lot of business owners who want their businesses featured. At the same time, because of When in Manila, I get invited to invest into a lot of businesses because nowadays it's the smart way of finding investors. Is when you find an investor, honestly, money is easy to find if you really, really look for it. You'll be able to find investors, but now it's called smart investors, where they bring something else to the table. So a lot of my businesses that are doing very successfully, are doing very well. They have a very good mix of investors, where one of the investor is a celebrity who can post an Instagram post about the place. One of the investors is a lawyer in case there's any legal problems. One of the investors is an architect, so he helped design the restaurant, etc. So it's finding those people who bring something else to the table is the right way to get investors nowadays. And fortunately, I fill that hole for the online marketing part for a lot of businesses here. So I get invited a lot. So I've been dabbing into investing lately, especially because my first investment did really, really well, where we ROI'd in the year and a half. This was Tipsy Pig, one of the and it's a biased opinion because I'm a partner, but it's still one of my favorite Filipino food places. To show that I'm unbiased, the two Filipino places that I recommend when I have friends from out of town, out of the country come in here is Tipsy Pig and Manam. Those are my two favorite Filipino restaurants. So Tipsy Pig, we did really well, but the sad part was because I wasn't that liquid when Tipsy Pig was looking for investors, so I just went in for the bare minimum. But I did so well, so the next investments that came my way, I'm like, yeah, I'm all in. Here, take my money. And then they didn't do well. So now I've balanced out where I'm pickier with my investments. So some of my recent investments that I'm very happy, proud, excited about, I'm part of Wolfgang Steakhouse for the Podium and BGC. I'm part of Gen Korean Barbecue. I'm part of Gaming Library, where we import board games. I'm a big board game geek. I love playing board games. I'm a big geek in general, but yeah, so we import board games. We have stores at Shangri-La Mall, Greenbelt 5, and here at 1 BGC, 1 Bonifacio Mall in BGC, actually on the third floor of Wolfgang's same mall. I'm part of Urban Traveler, where it's my partner from Gaming Library, where we import men's accessories
like smart keys.
Yeah, smart keys, wallet, unique wallets, travel accessories, etc. It was actually his story where he traveled a lot to board game conventions to find out what the hot games are, and as he traveled, he started picking up more and more travel accessories because he traveled so much, and then eventually he started getting these he started attending these travel conventions and bringing in the travel accessories. And my most recent one is Conduit, where it's an art gallery slash events place slash restaurant and tapas and drinks.
Where's this?
It's in Poblacion, Makati. So two of my partners are very, very passionate about art. Some of my partners, not just two. They're very, very passionate about art, and they wanted to put up this space so that they could bring art to be more accessible. Because I imagine, even for me, that art can be intimidating. Yeah. For a normal person who doesn't know art, they wouldn't usually go to an art gallery because I wouldn't even know how to appreciate that art. I'm not gonna buy that art, so it might be a bit intimidating. So instead, now you're just coming to the restaurant to eat or drink, and everything around you is actually art from different artists that you can buy on the first floor. So everything around is everything is for sale. Except for me, I'm okay. But everything, all the art pieces there are for sale. And then on the second floor, it's actually an open floor where we have different exhibitions. So no tables upstairs for eating. But at the same time, we can remove all the art pieces if needed and make it a blank second floor so that you can have an event space, because there's not a lot of event spaces in Poblacion. Yeah. So just to make the business a bit more sustainable. So very excited about that Conduit in Poblacion, Makati, and Poblacion's sort of the hot growing place right now for the hipsters and the cool people, which is why I feel it's so weird that I'm there. No. I'm so geeky, but yeah. So quite a few investments for me, fortunately, because of In Manila. But I've had quite a few that closed down that unfortunately didn't do well. That it's expensive tuition because you pretty much just learn from the experiences. But I have had businesses that didn't do well.
What's your current criteria for like evaluating whether to invest in a venture or not?
The number one thing I invest into is the person. So if I like the person, if I see the drive in them, if I believe in them, then I would invest. That's the first step. So meaning the partners, meaning the people putting it up, that's my first thing. The second thing is if I would use that service or whatever it is myself. So that's why I've invested into these places that I actually like. I'm a big board game geek, so I'm going to invest into board games. I'm a big fan of steak, so I'm going to invest into Wolfgang's. I'm a big fan of this food at Tipsy Pig, I'm going to invest into that. I'm learning to appreciate art, I'm going to invest into that. So those are my two biggest criteria, and then of course there's a lot more other ones, but then that's a bit more on the nitty gritty, and each business has its own little things that you need to look into. But those are my two initial criteria, I guess.
So So how do you manage all of these things that you're investing in, aside from obviously your main business when in Manila? Like what's a typical day like for you?
So fortunately, I don't manage. I mean the other businesses. So that's one thing, is that I don't come in as an operating partner. In fact, I've had businesses approach me like, Vince, come invest here and then you will be the marketing head. Like, no, no. I'm too busy with When in Manila. There's still so much growth available for When in Manila. In fact, even just spending more time. I don't write lately. I have not been able to write. I'm more of the editor, and I come in with the ideas and I let my writers write them nowadays. But I guess I do a lot of the creative ideas and have them write the articles nowadays. So just me spending more time creating unique article or video concepts, or even writing myself, I would already earn from that per se. So business-wise, it doesn't make sense for me to start dabbling into other things when I could just find more ways for When Manila to grow. So the businesses I invest in I'm usually just a silent partner. We'll help out with online promotions, but I'm not the go-to marketing guy or anything like that. So fortunately, I don't have to worry much about the businesses. Fortunately and unfortunately, because the problem is when they don't do well, then I'm also not. I don't have.
You have no control over.
Yeah, it's hard to come in all of a sudden like, oh, we should. Of course, they still listen to you. You can suggest, but you can't just come in and like, we need to change everything. You know. But I do like it that way, where I'm just more of a silent friend, silent partner. So I don't have a typical day because every day's. We work from home is the way I like to do it. We with my staff, we only meet twice a month. It might increase to once a week, but as of now, we're meeting twice a month, based off of the 4-Hour Work Week by Timothy Ferris. I'm now a fan of meetings, useless meetings. So I hate going to a meeting and after the meeting, I think like, this could have been emailed to me. We did not have to sit for 1 hour to talk about that. It was very pointless. So I'm a very results-oriented type of guy. I like information coming to me quick. I like information given out quick. So that's why we only meet twice a month. And it's just, we meet for a couple of hours. And in fact, our meetings are kind of like bonding also, because we're kind of just we haven't seen each other in a while. And everyone, I'd like to think that there's not much or no office politics with us since we have a small staff, pretty much. And I tell everyone, if you want to do something, do it. And I can give you a bonus for it, or I can eventually give you a raise for it. So just suggest it to me. So there's not a lot of, office politics where there's only one vice president position. Everyone's fighting for it, So for us, it's like, hey, if you want to do more, talk to me and we'll work something out. So I'd like to think that we're all friends then. I do treat them as family. And so our meetings are kind of fun. But other than the twice a month meetings, every day is different because every day I choose which businesses I would go for when they're asking to be featured. Sometimes I go myself. Sometimes I go meet the owners. Sometimes I network with people. So every day is different. A different meeting with someone, a different place I go to, a different something. So every day is different.
What do you do to stay productive? I think for some people, the idea of working from home can also be a challenge for some people. Like if they don't have the discipline, and like in like a proper work area.
Yeah, you know what? I've been trying. I just realized that. I thought it was normal. I thought it was normal for me waking up and wanting to check my emails and do stuff for When in Manila that I don't consider work, because I consider it fun. So I thought it was normal, but until we started hiring some people who couldn't hack it, and they even told me, like, some of our best people had to leave because they're like, I'm having a hard time with the work from home thing. I'm not as disciplined. So I've just recently been trying to figure out why or how to train people to work from home, especially if they're not built for it. I don't know what special or unique trait these work from home people have like me, but I wake up and I have fun with it. I guess that's it. A lot of our senior admins at When Manila, they have fun with it as well, and they appreciate that they don't have to be in traffic for 2 hours a day. In December, it's 4 hours because it's 2 hours each way. They don't have to wake up at a specific time. They don't have to sleep at a specific, so they appreciate that, and that's why they've been with us longer. But then we do have some people who, they're just not cut out for it. They prefer
They need the structure.
They need the structure, yeah. So I don't know, but I think even when I was in the military, the structure was one of the things that I hated the most. I guess I'm more of a creative guy because it's an exaggeration, but the story I tell is in the military. The military is like a corporation times 10. Corporation as far as their corporate rules. Yeah. Because let's say it's dark in here. In the military, if it was dark, I'd have to write a request sheet, send it up to my officer in charge. He will have to check with his senior officer, his senior chief. The chief would have to check with the officer of the day, and then it'd go up until the captain of the ship approves, and then it has to come back down. When it gets to be 3 days later, 5 days later, then I can turn the lights on. I'm exaggerating, of course, not for lights, but for a lot of things. I do also understand the structure where, this is, equipment could break, the ship could sink if some idiot 18-year-old decides to touch something, change things, and no one up above their chain of command knows what they did. So I do understand the structure for big corporations or the military like that. So fortunately, for us, like we're in Manila, where we're still fairly small, yes and no, we're big in terms of our views, which is why we do have some rules in place, because if someone posts something, it's already seen by millions of people before we can take it down in a few seconds. So we do have some rules, but I'd like to think that overall, as long as people do positive things, as long as it's not negative, that we still give them the creative freedom. So structure is one of the things that I did not like about the military. Is one of the reasons I got out. So I don't know. I guess I'm more of a creative guy. I still haven't been able to dig deep enough to figure out what it is about people who can work from home, what traits or what specific skills. For me, it's just built in already. It's like I've just always been this. Not always, but ever since the military and then college and then working, I've just always had this wake up. What can I do today? It also comes from when I was soul searching. I live on a lot of quotes. One of them is don't judge each day by the harvest that you reap, but by the seeds that you plant. So not every day that there's going to be fruits to harvest, but every day if you're planting something, those little seeds that you plant every day, one day might lead to something. So for me, every day it's about planting something, whether it's writing an article. Reaching out to someone, to an old friend and asking to collaborate, reaching out to someone new and asking them to be your mentor, something you never know what it might lead to. So for me, every day it's just I wake up and what seed am I planting today?
Nice. I think, based on what you're saying, it seems like you're able to take the discipline from the military, but not take the structure so that...
maybe
you're free to be creative.
Maybe that's a good way to look at it, because I do when people do ask me if I regret the military, and I always say no. I loved. I mean, it has its ups and downs, but overall I loved it, especially the people I've met. But if I had to do it over, I would still enlist, because I feel like I became quote unquote a man in the military. I learned how to be a man. I grew up, or as people in the military say, a grown ass man.
Were you ever deployed? Or?
Yes, I was deployed twice. I was stationed to a destroyer, the USS Elliott and the USS Fletcher, two destroyers. We were.
Sounds so badass now, destroyer.
Yeah, it does. So we were deployed twice. We do the Western Pacific tour, the Westpac. We were deployed to the Gulf of Oman. And I was in the military when 9/11 happened, which kind of sucked, because before 9/11 things were a bit more laid back. After 9/11, everything was so high alert, especially for like a year or two after 9/11. Everything was on high alert. Oh my god, it got so hectic. So it kind of sucked. I wish that didn't happen, other than the obvious facts that people got hurt. But it was very hectic after 9/11. But yes, we got deployed twice. In fact, deployments are usually 6 months long. Our deployment after 9/11 extended to 8 months, which was pretty much almost a whole year out deployed. And in that deployment, you only hit ports like 4 days would be a normal port visit, and then you're out maybe 3 weeks, 2, 3, 4 weeks at a time. And there's nothing to do on the ship, so you literally, I don't know, maybe that's where the structure came, where I just wake up. What am I gonna do today, even though there's nothing to do. That I don't know.
No social media, no anything.
No, well, back then there was no social media yet, other than email. There was no social media back then. But even today, I can't imagine that you're allowed to be on social media out on a ship when you're on a mission.
No Netflix and everything.
Yeah, I don't imagine that that's available. Even back then, it was there was no. I mean, there was no like cable when we were out. We would download the military approved content, and then the ship would show it on the TVs that are hooked up to the network around the ship. We had our own network, and it's because the saying loose lips sink ships. Because if someone accidentally, and it happened in the past where someone would harmlessly tell their family, "Oh, I'm gonna be in here," but then a bad guy, a terrorist, whatever, could intercept those messages, and they could ambush the ship or whatnot in certain places. So it is serious stuff as well, which is it's weird to talk about, and like as a civilian that you might not realize that as simple as that, like telling someone where you're going could lead to danger. So I can't imagine that they have social media available on the ship while you're out on mission today.
What do you do to what other hobbies do you have aside from?
So I love meeting new people. I don't even want to call it networking, because I'm not really. There are times where I am networking, but I just like meeting people. I love board games. I'm a big geek. I love video games, so I play a lot.
What games are you into right now?
I'll get back to that in a second. They just finish my hobbies because I have a story for video games. But so my other hobbies also, I love surfing. So especially coming from San Diego, I surfed every day back then. I picked up skateboarding. I like trying new things. I'll try everything once. I love drinking. I love craft beers. Slowly getting into whiskeys. Slowly getting more into wines. But craft beers is my favorite. But yeah, for video games, so I have an addictive personality. So when I get started on something, I will not stop. I almost lost my girlfriend back then, and my grades, I was in college, my grades started going down when I bought my first ever PS2, my first ever gaming. When I was younger, unfortunately, we couldn't afford a PlayStation or anything like that, so I would just play at my neighbor's. So, of course, it's limited because you can't be there all the time. But me, when I could finally afford a PlayStation in the US, my life took a nosedive. So I wasn't going out, I wasn't eating right, I wasn't showering. My girlfriend was about to break up with me because of it. My grades went down. So I realized I had an addictive personality. I had to sell my my PS2. And I made a promise to myself that I won't buy a new gaming system until... And I don't even download games on my phone because I will still get addicted. So I promised myself I would... And I have tried downloading games on my phone. I do get addicted, so I need to delete them. And I don't download games anymore on my phone. But I made a promise not to buy a new gaming system until I'm doing okay in life and I have extra time. So then, I think 2 years ago, I was like, okay, I think I'm okay. And I think I have better control, which I don't. But so I bought a PS2, and last year I bought a PS4, and last year I played too much. So this year I made a promise I won't buy new games. So I've just been playing my old games over and over again. But the problem with my old games is one of them is if you're gamers, is one of them is Monster Hunter, and they came out with an expansion. So that expansion, that DLC, Iceborne, sort of falls into my it's not a new game really loophole. Yeah. So I bought it. So I've just been playing that lately. But yeah, I love games. But I still play too much, so I kind of have to put my restraints on myself.
So it's a good thing you don't download on your phone.
Because I learned that I play too much. Especially your phone's with you everywhere. Oh my god!
So every idle time you're waiting.
Yes. But the problem is even non-idle times I'm playing. So that's the thing. So I had to stop.
I would imagine working from home and being addicted to video games.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a good mix. Yes,
yeah.
That's why I had to stop buying new games. So I have not bought a quote unquote new game this year.
Okay, so we're heading towards the end of the show. I like to ask these 3 questions to every guest. The first one is, knowing everything you know now in 2019 and everything you've learned and experienced since starting When in Manila, if you had a time machine and you can go back to that point when you decided to start When in Manila, and you had just a minute to talk to Vince from years ago, what would you say to yourself?
I wouldn't. You'd mess up this time-space continuum. When I get asked that question, I usually don't like, because as long as you learn from your mistakes, you're not losing. I would be afraid to go back and tell myself not to do certain things, because what if I don't make that mistake and I don't learn from it and things don't turn out the way they are? I'm in a way very happy where I am. So I honestly, if anything, if I really had to answer that, it would be small things like maybe, hey, make more videos, because you're writing a lot, but videos are the future, and I can see that 10 years, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, that videos are growing. You stopped making videos, so make more videos. So maybe small things, small tips like that. But other than that, I would leave him to learn
the macro picture. Nothing about
yeah, the macro picture. Absolutely. I firmly believe that there's no such thing as a real mistake. As long as you're learning from it, then that's part of life. I mean, everyone stumbles, everyone makes mistakes, everyone, it's normal. No one's perfect.
Nice. The second question is, what can we expect from you, or what are you looking to accomplish over the next 10 years?
One big thing I'm working on is hopefully by next year we're writing a couple of books. One book is a local guide, so 101 things to do when in Manila. Hopefully it'll be at airports and whatnot. We're working on that. The other one's my personal book, just my story of things I've done that I'm working on right now. So hopefully that'll be out next year. Other than that, we're trying to work on our video inventory, as I said, to tell to my younger self if I do see him. So we're trying to build more videos, because videos are growing more and more into the media of choice for people. So we are trying to build our video inventory. So hopefully more of that. I'd love for 10 years from now, if we do find an investor who is as passionate, who does want to take When in Manila somewhere else, and I'll be sort of the guide, one of the smaller investors, partners for a venture like that. I'd love to do that. So yeah.
Nice. And your podcast.
And the podcast, yes. Slowly working on the podcast. Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Nice. So before I ask the final question, where can people find you? Where can people follow you and on all the brands?
Yeah, so mainly just follow me personally. I'm on Twitter, Instagram at Vince Golangco. And then there's When in Manila. When in Manila, we have a lot of different micro sites, niche pages. So other than the main When in Manila page, you can find on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at When in Manila. We have small pages. So if you're just into shoes, we have like Whim Kicks. Whim stand for When Manila. And then if you're into entertainment, we have Whim Showbiz. If you're into food, we have Whim Yummy. If you're into travel, we have Whim Adventures. So we have all these small niche pages that, because we found out that we have so much content we want, so, and sometimes pushing it all, it gets too it gets too much. It gets too it gets too much. So we came up with these small pages. Especially sometimes we'll write about celebrities, because there are legit fans. So let's say you're a fan of this person. I wrote about them. You'd be like, oh my god, I didn't know that. But then there's all these other people who aren't fans, and they always comment like, who cares? Why are you writing about this? No one cares. When actually people do care. Yeah. So that's why we have the Whim Showbiz. That way, people who are specifically into entertainment news or whatnot, amongst other things, people who are into shoes, they have Whim Kicks. So I think we have over 20 different When in Manila niche pages that you guys can find, but they're all linked through our main When in Manila page.
All right, so we'll put a link on the main page.
Yes, just the main page is fine. Yes,
on the show notes.
Yeah.
So very final question, Vince. How do you want to be remembered?
That's a very mortal question. It makes you question your mortality. I really just, I don't know. Because that's one of the things one of my fears in life is, when the day comes that growing old is my fear. And then with that is, passing on and then how you're remembered. Honestly, as long as I just want people to think I was a nice guy for the people that do remember me. But I'm I don't know, the way I look at that is that you can't really control how people will remember you, will look at you, whatnot. So it's more and honestly, if you're dead by then who cares? No one knows what happens in the afterlife. I don't know if there's such a thing as an afterlife where you're going to be looking down. Oh, look how people remember me. I mean, but by that time, I think you wouldn't care. So for me, it's really not about looking at how people will remember you, but rather than just living in the moment and just appreciating where you are and being nice to people where you are when you are. So it's more of the way I look at it is just be in the moment and be positive, be nice where you are, rather than thinking about doing this so that people remember me this way, something like that. If that makes sense.
Yes, it does. It does. Well, that's it. Thank you so much, Vince. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it. And yeah, more power to your podcast. Hopefully we can collaborate more or whatnot.
Thank you guys for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review the show on iTunes. It will help more people discover the show. You can also share a screen cap of the show on your social media accounts. Make sure to tag me and let me know which part of the episode you like or didn't like. All feedback is certainly welcome, so feel free to reach out to me on Instagram @KendrickCo to let me know what topics you'd like to be covered next and who you want to hear or learn from in future episodes. Until next time, do the work you want to see done, because life's too short to not be creating your life's work.